Hey guys, welcome to my new video. In this video, I will show you a tutorial of how you can implement user role-based authentication in Next-Auth. So this tutorial will gonna be on Next.js 14 app router, and in this video, I will show you how you can implement role-based authentication. If you are not familiar with Next-Auth, Next-Auth is one of the most popular open source authentication library for Next.js. It helps you make authentication, integration, and implementation on your application super easy. In this video, I will not go through how you can implement Next.js and Next-Auth in your Next.js project from scratch. Instead, I will go through how you can implement role-based authentication in your application. So if you want to get started with this tutorial, I would highly suggest, if you do not have knowledge of Next-Auth, that you at least understand how Next-Auth work, how you can implement basic level of Next-Auth in your application, and then move forward with this video. So without any further delay, let's get started. To give a quick demo of what we gonna go through, and I will make you understand how user based authentication work. I will show you the application in which I implemented the user based authentication. I'll walk through you the code of this particular application, of how it works and everything later on this video. But if I go give you a quick demo, currently this is the application in which I implemented the role based authentication. As I am logged in as an admin, I have access to all the part of the application. So I have access to dashboard, I can go to products, I can create a new products, and if I go back, I can click on particular product, which means I can edit a product and also delete a product. Same for the category, I can list all the category, I can go to create a new category, and I can also go to a particular category and delete them. Same for the orders, I can view all the orders that has been coming to system. I can create new orders and save them. So this is the admin section or the admin view. It will give you an idea of how much thing are on this particular application. Now I have created a different role, which is a catalog manager. So I'm currently logged in as employee 1, who is a catalog manager. So if you see right off the start, you can see the order section is not visible, because as a catalog manager, he or she only have access to add a new product, delete a new product, update a new product, and same for the category. Add a new category, delete a category, and update a category. They are not allowed to see the orders. So if I go to a particular order product, you will see that uh, product manager will have all access to it. So they can create a product, they can click on a particular product and delete a product and do all the stuff. And same for the category, they can create a new category, they can go back, they can edit a particular category, delete it, and update it. But if you see, they don't have access to orders sidebar. In this tutorial, I will show you how you can implement page based authentication also. What I mean by that is, you can see the orders is hidden, but as well as if someone decided to go to slash order space, what will happen is they will be prompt with access denied page. So you can see this, I have implemented Next.js middleware to handle this stuff, in which before user is being redirected to a particular page, they are authenticated, and if they don't have access to it, they are soon access denied page, and they can go back to dashboard. Similarly, uh, on the page level as well as on the component level, what I mean by that is, there is another role which I created for the demo purpose. It's it's a catalog viewer. What I mean by that is, employee 2, which is currently logged in on this session, is a catalog viewer. They can only be allowed to list a product, view a product. They cannot create a product or delete a product. They cannot create a category or delete a category. They don't have any access to orders. So if you see, as they don't have any access to orders, right off the bat the orders sidebar is removed. And similarly with the catalog manager, if they decided to go to slash orders, they are being redirected to access denied page. So Let's go back. Since they are a product catalog viewer, they don't even have access to create a new product. So if they go to the product page, you will see that the option that they had for adding a new product is completely hidden on their section. So even if they decide to go to slash product slash create, they are redirected to access denied page. And so same for the categories. So if you can see, the option that admin and the product or catalog manager had to create a new category is completely removed. So even if they decided to go to slash create, you will see that they don't have access to access denied. So this is a comprehensive tutorial in which I will go through the code that I use to implement the middleware, as well as different higher level component which I use to dynamically show multiple component based on the permission of the user and everything. I'm super excited for this tutorial. Let's get started. Understand how I have structured the user and role table or entity in my backend. So if I go to my entity of the user, what you will see is I have created a users table in which I'm storing basic data of the user like first name, last name, email, password, phone, etc. Along with that, I'm storing a role ID, and role ID is a foreign key which is linked to a role entity. So if I go to a roles entity, you will see that I have created a new table called roles, and in this table there are few different fields. One is the name of the role. Slug is basically a unique identifier for a role. So it will be if the name is like admin, then slug will be admin, and if name is like catalog manager, slug will be something like catalog manager. It is just used for identifying a particular role. I could have used the ID, but ID is not sometime a good identification in PostgreSQL or MySQL table, so I have used a slug. And there is description. Description is nullable field. It should be nullable field. I don't know why it is not nullable field, but this is just for providing user what that role does, and this is just for making them understand what it does. Along with that, I have one of the most important column, which is permissions. Permission is an array column in which I'm storing the permission, and the data structure for permission looks something like this. So permissions would have, let's say, dashboard dot access and products dot create and categories dot create. So this is basically an array which will define all the permission that this particular role has, and the role is linked to a particular user, so it will identify all the permission that a particular user has. So if I show you how the data is shown on Postman so that you can have a bit more clarity, is, so let's say if I go to roles.listAll and make a send request, I'm not sure if, okay, so you will see that I have few roles that was already created, and this is how they are structured. So admin role will have name as an admin role, slug as admin, admin of the application, and the role will have permission of dashboard.access, products.all, categories.all, order.alls, customer.alls, and teams.all, so on and forth. So they will have all the permission associated with products and everything. So let's say for another role such as catalog viewer, only allowed to view products and categories, they will only have access to dashboard.access and products.list and categories.list. So they won't have access to products.create, so they cannot create a new product, update a new product, or delete a new product. And let's say someone is logging in as a user, what how I'm returning the data is if I log in. So this is the app route for login, and let's say I'm logging with the admin user. What I'm doing is I'm returning the basic data for the user: last name, first name, email, phone number is null, and I'm also returning the role associated with that particular user. So for admin, the role is admin, and also the permission associated with that particular role. So why I'm showing you this is important while I will be moving next to Next-Auth thing. So this is how I have structured user rules. You can further make it a bit more comprehensive by creating a permissions table and associating roles and permissions with it. I think as MySQL does not have a way to store array, so you can do that. But as PostgreSQL had access to store array in a particular column, I think this is pretty much capturing all the necessary requirement that I have in the application. So this is how basically the database and the API is structured on the first place. That you understand how the API works and how the data is being structured in the backend and how the API is giving data to us and everything, I will show you how I have set up the Next-Auth. So in the admin project, I can go to source, app, APIs, and Next-Auth route.ts. So in this, I have added a credential provider, and what I have done is I have added few data to it, like what are the credential that is needed, email address, placeholders, and everything. And there is an authorize function. So basically, authorize function is a function which is called whenever sign in is hit, and you can see that I have added sign in page as auth slash login. So basically that is how I'm showing the custom login page. So if I go here, it is just a login page with login form, and if I go there, you will see that it is just a basic form. And what I'm doing is I'm calling the sign in function from Next-Auth, in which I'm providing email and password from the form. And what happens is, taking that email address and password from the credential, I'm calling the user service login. And if I go to the file of user service, it is just making the Axios request to the API that is shown earlier. So slash users slash login, and it is passing the email and password. When the request is successful, so basically when I receive a particular user, how I receive the user is, so this is the structure of the user that I receive. I have the basic detail of the user as well as I have the role. So once I have it, I'm returning that user through response.user.return. And once that user is being returned, this function is called. So basically I'm calling the JWT function, and I can do this. So in this, what I'm doing is I'm getting the token associated with that particular user and also the user. And by default, Next-Auth only have few different fields on the tokens, like name, email, token, and everything. But in this way, you can implement other things that are completely returned. So if I showed you earlier, I'm also returning the role. So what I have done is I have added this so that this token also get backs the role associated with that particular user. And in order to not have any TypeScript issue and everything, what I have done is I have created an interface file in which I created next.auth.d.ts. And what I have done is I have declared the Next.Auth module, and I'm extending the session in which I added few of my custom field, like I added the first name, last name, role as a role interface, and role interface is the basic interface which is replicating the role table that we have in the database. And same for the token, so token also have a role associated with it. And what I'm doing is, as a session, I'm passing users first name, last name, and roles. So what it will have is whenever I'm getting the session associated with that particular user, I'm also getting the role that is assigned to that user, which was sent from this API request. So this is how the Next-Auth route.ts file works. I will link all the file in my GitHub repo. I cannot link whole project as such, but I will try to link code of every file that I have so that it will be easier for you to identify it and view how you can implement it. So this is how I implemented the Next-Auth file. The next thing that I did is, if if you saw how I implemented the redirection thing, so in which if the user does not have access to a particular route, let's say they cannot create a product, they cannot go to slash product slash create. So in order to implement that, what I have done is I have in the app folder, in the source folder of my project, I created a middleware.ts file. Middleware is basically a file that runs whenever a request is changed in next auth. So or any particular route is hit on next or next.js. So in the middleware file, what I have added, the most important thing is config. In config, I have copied the default config that next.js documentation provides, in which it is match all the requests except starting with API. So it is just adding a regex which is not doing that. And in that particular request, what I have done is I have also added auth page, because auth is a custom page that I created for authentication and everything, and also access denied page. So the page that you saw in the access denied is being added here. And if I go to the access denied page code, is it is just a page which says access is denied, you don't have permission to it, and then there is a button through which you can go to the dashboard page. So if I go to the middleware again, what I'm doing is, after the config, I have created a paths folder, in which for each of the path in which I need to add a permission, I have defined them here. So basically, for slash path, the user need dashboard.access permission to visit this particular path, and I have defined it for every other path associated with my application. You can do it on any granular level that you want, or on the top level. It's really depend on you, and it's gonna be dynamic. So for the let's say slash products, which is product listing page, you either can have products.list or products.all. Dot all is basically all the permission associated with products or any particular entity or use case I can say of. So product slash create, so either you can have products.create permission or products.all. And similarly for product slash id page, what you need to do is products.edit, products.view, products.delete, and so on and so forth. So this is how I have added a new array which defines all the path and the permission that is required to visit that particular path in our application. Using that, what I have done is I have imported useAuth uh, function from the Next-Auth. And what this function does is basically it adds a Next-Auth entity or variable to your request, and it will give you access to the token stored in the Next-Auth. So what you will see is the token that I return from the Next.auth option, this, which will have all this data associated with that user, roles, first name, last name, and everything. So using that token, what I have done is, if if the user has token, then only I'm doing it. Otherwise, Next.auth will automatically handle everything. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the path name of current URL that user is trying to visit, and using that path name, I'm finding if any of this path is matching with that path name, I need to add a regex in order to match with dynamic paths, let's say product slash id and everything. And if it finds that particular path, if it does not find that particular path, it just redirect to dashboards, which is because we need to set up it and it is a comprehensive path. If not, it just stored it into a path variable, and I'm getting the user's permission. So the token is having all this user data inside of it, and you will see I have this role and the permission. And why am I not getting any TypeScript error and anything is because of the interface that I showed you earlier. Is in the token also I have added the role. So this is how it works. I'm getting all users permission for currently logged in user, and I'm checking if the path permission, any of the path permission is user permission is included with it. So I'm just basically checking if the user permission has access to that to path. If it does not have access to that, it is being redirected to access denied page. Otherwise, they can have access to that particular page. So this is how I have implemented middleware, which will handle all the request coming through it, and again it will just redirects the user to access denied page even if they try to auto change the URL. So this is very important crucial step of the application. You can just go through this code once I have uploaded it to the GitHub, but this is how I have implemented it. Now that you have understand how I implemented middleware so that user cannot redirect it to redirect or go to a particular page based on the permission that they have, there is another important thing that is missing on the role-based authentication, which is UX part. So basically, let's say you have a user which does not have access to create a product, but if you show them the create button that admin has on this particular page, what user will assume that okay, I have access to that particular button, and they try to click on it, and what happens is they are redirected to product slash create page. Middleware runs and then they are redirected back to access denied. It is not a user friendly way to implement role based authentication. What you should do is you should also hide the component based on the condition and the permission of the user. So currently if you see here, products page which had add product for admin is being hidden for a particular employee, which is just a product viewer, so they don't need access to that particular button. So I will show you how I have implemented that functionality. In order to implement that functionality, what I have done is I have implemented two things. I have implemented a hook called use has access, and I have implemented a component called permission check. Let me go through each of that file and help you understand what I have done. In the hooks, what I have created is I have created a hook called use has access, and basically in this hook what I'm doing is I'm just checking the session of that particular user. If session is loading, return is false, and if there is no session, then nothing is being returned. So user is not being returned to anything. And if the session is there, so what I'm doing is I'm getting the user from the session, I'm going inside the role, I'm going inside the permission, and I'm checking if the permission that is being passed to this use access hook has been included in user or not. If they have been included, then I'm returning true. Otherwise, what I'm doing is I'm getting the entity from the permission. So what I mean with that is, let's say a permission is passed as products dot create. I'm getting the products from this code, and I'm checking if they have access to product at all. So basically admin can has access to product but all, but not necessary they need to add product.create, product.edit, product.delete, everything. So admin will have access to all the further thing inside that product. So this is what I'm doing, and if that access then equals to true, otherwise it will return false. And how I have implemented this code is, let's say if I go to products page and particular detail of a product. So this is how I can use that particular hook. Is I need to provide the permission that I need to check, and it returns a boolean, so either essentially true or false, and you can use that boolean to further do condition on your component. So basically, if you see in this component has edit access, I'm just passing if they have products.edit or not, and based on that I'm just making sure product form is only view or they have access to edit it. So this is how I implemented a hook, and it is very easier to use this and everything. But you will see that hook has limited access to it. So I only recommend to use this hook whenever you need to do some logic like this and stuff. But let's say you just need to render a component based on the permission of the user, and if they don't have permission, then just render false. What I did is I created another component which is a top level component. So basically I created a permission check component, and what it does is it takes permission and also takes children is any React elements that we can have, and using that permission it uses use has hook that I just explained, and it checks it if the user has permission to that particular permission, and if not, then it just return false. Otherwise it renders that children that we're trying to see. And let me show you an example of how we can easily implement this particular component. Is if I go to product and header, so this is how you can create this is how you can use that particular component. Is basically anything that you want to wrap up inside a permission thing and check through it, you can just pass that component. In this case the button for the add product is being passed here. So if you see here, if I just remove it, they will have access to it, and they click on it, they will go to access denied page. But this component, permission check component, if I save it, you will see it is hidden, and what I'm passing is the permission for product.create, and it will automatically hide through it. It will be similar for any other functionality also. Let's say in the id, what I will show is in the delete button for a particular product is being wrapped inside the permission check, and the permission passed is products.delete. And if they don't have access to delete that particular product in the user table and everything, they are just rendered nothing. So this is very easy way to implement and hide and unhide any component, wrap them inside this particular product check higher level component, and easily show the role based authentication and implement on your application. So that is how I implemented the functionality of role-based authentication and control on my application. You can go any further down. So let's say you can just level and top on the product level. Then you can do that. You can add any additional product and do this and everything. So that is how you can implement this functionality.